Pete is also somebody and that helps us a lot and looks after our podcast, Scale Up Radio, which is one of our lead generation tactics. And Pete, I'd like to introduce you, please, to talk about lead generation from your perspective.
Okay. Thanks very much, Kevin. I really do feel like the dancing monkeys that came on after the Beatles when they first appeared on Ed Sullivan, coming on after Jenny. But I will do what I can. My name is Pete Morgan. My company is Monkey Pants Productions, and we help businesses and individuals get into the world of podcasting, whether it's through education or right up to full podcast production. So about 2.5 years ago, Kevin got in touch with me after seeing me speak at a networking event and said that he wanted to start a podcast called Scale Up Radio. Now, my form of lead generation regarding Monkey Pants Productions absolutely worked perfectly, because my lead generation is down to those kind of appearances and the webinars and the workshops. It's introducing people to podcasting rather than assuming people know what it's all about. It's educating them as to what it is and the power of the podcast. And clearly something that I'd said, I think the one that Kevin saw was 10 questions everybody has about podcasting, or 10 questions about podcasting, and I answered those. Yep, I think that's what it was. Okay. So Kevin and I had a conversation about what he wanted the podcast to be, and it's a great idea for a business podcast. It is to speak to business owners, or on a monthly basis, we would have a panel discussion to, in the panel discussion, talk about an aspect of business, being a business owner, but on the one-to-one interviews, to hear that person's scale-up journey, to hear where they started, where they are now, how they got to it, how much of it was planned, how much of it was just blind luck, and what the lessons that they've learned, the challenges they've faced, so that when people come away from it, they have learned something. And that is where podcasting has to live within your lead generation, within your sales and marketing funnel. If you are going to do a podcast, there's got to be some value for the listener. There has got to be something that I'm either going to learn, or I'm going to be entertained by, or is going to change my life in some way. Because people listen to podcasts for one reason and one reason only, and that is because it makes their lives better in some way. So whether or not you're listening to a baking podcast, and there's some excellent ones out there because you want to be better at baking and you like these presenters, whether you listen to an interview podcast with a famous person interviewing another famous person and you enjoy that and that makes you laugh or smile or think, or whether you listen to Scale Up Radio and learn business lessons and become a better business owner or a better business person because of the things that you've heard in Scale Up Radio. So the Scale Up Radio has been going since about the beginning of 2019. I seem to remember now. Yeah, so it's about 2 and a bit years that the Scale Up Radio has been going, and thousands of people have jumped onto the Scale Up Radio bandwagon. They have joined in, and one of the reasons that they do it is because it's free and because they get value out of it. But one of the other main reasons that they do, and this kind of ties in with what Jenny's been saying as well, is that kind of connection that people make with Kevin. Now, I'm going to say nice things about Kevin now, so he may well get embarrassed. I think Kevin's got a great voice. I worked in radio for 30 years, and I met people who I'd rather have my dog on the radio than this person. But Kevin is not that. Kevin has got such a warmth in his voice. And it is that, I think, that is one of the key selling points of Scale Up Radio. And it's the same with anything, whether you're doing podcasting, whether you want to do vlogs, and that's fine. I'm not anti-video. I just think podcasting is a better way of getting your message across because of this, because it ties in with radio a lot. Now, think back to when we were all younger, those heady days. Some of us have to think back a little bit longer than others. And you think about the breakfast show presenter that you would listen to in the morning. So for some people, it would have been Chris Evans on Radio 1. For some, it was Simon Mayo. For some, it would have been whoever was local to you. So growing up in Manchester, it was a guy called Dave Ward on Piccadilly 261. That was when it was on shortwave. Simon Bates. But you made that connection with that radio presenter. So the one that probably stands out for me in my kind of late teens, early 20s was when Chris Evans was on Radio 1. Now, if I'd have seen Chris Evans in the street, I would have greeted him as if I knew him, because I did. But he doesn't know me, he doesn't know me from Adam. And the loyal listeners to a business podcast that is giving value, that is consistent in its output, make that connection. There will be hundreds, thousands of people out there who see Kevin as the expert on scaling up your business, as the voice of expertise in being a business owner. And it's because he's got that warmth of voice, because he's publishing on a regular basis, and because he's giving value in his content. And the construction of the podcast episode and the podcast as a whole that we've put together with Scale Up Radio, that is what has created that connection, that bond between the listener and the presenter. They trust Kevin. If Kevin went on in a future episode and said, you know what, this is what you should do, everybody. Everyone should make sure you've got a bowl of bananas in your business. I guarantee you there would be hundreds of business owners who'd be like, let's put bananas in the office because Kevin has told us to do it. That's the connection that you get with podcasting. And that is how you get more people coming in. Can you draw a direct line from your podcast to new clients? Not necessarily, but you can absolutely influence that funnel that leads to lead generation. Okay. I think that's my time done. I've probably gone over again, so apologies about that.
No, that's great. Thank you, Pete. And thank you for those flattering words. I do remember Pete telling me right at the very beginning that he thought I got a great voice for midnight radio. Which I took to mean that I put people to sleep. But,
no, not at all. You have got. I mean, if you did something like The Quiet Storm, genuinely, it'd be so popular. It'd be brilliant.
Brilliant. Right. Thank you very much, Pete. And genuinely, Pete makes that whole process of running podcasts so easy. I don't have to do any of the hard work. He does all of the difficult technical stuff, makes me sound better than I am, but equally importantly makes the guests sound really good as well, but does all the publishing to the right places, so makes it very easy. And it is genuinely, you might think, as Pete said, it's hard sometimes to track direct sales from something like a podcast, and it is one of those farming activities more than one of those targeted hunting activities. However, if you think about it, I get to sit down for an hour each week with a great business owner, so it's actually doing both. It's doing a bit of that targeted activity as well as the hunting. So do seriously consider podcasts, but it's a great example of, if you want to do something, do it well. We could have played at it, but we decided fairly early on, once we worked out how to do it, we decided we were going to put some effort into it and do it as well as we could. And I think that's important. It is across, is it 49 countries or something now, Pete?
Yes, 43 it is. Well, I've actually just got the latest stats in front of me, so I think it is. I think it is about 40 odd countries. Yeah.
So lots of benefits to it.